A small home rarely feels small because of its size alone. It feels small when everything asks for your attention at once. That is the strange part. People often try to create more space by buying more storage, adding more shelves, organizing more aggressively, and sometimes the room still feels tight, noisy, and mentally crowded. Because the real problem is not always square footage. It is friction. It is visual pressure. It is the number of decisions your brain has to make every time you look around. Japanese homes are often discussed as if they hold some secret magic. They do not. What they often reflect, though, is something quieter and more practical. When space is limited, every object has to justify the attention it takes. And that changes the way a home is arranged. So this is not about making your home look perfect. It is about making it feel lighter, calmer, easier to live in. The first trick is to protect the floor. Not because empty floors are beautiful in some abstract way, but because the brain reads open pathways as freedom. The moment the floor becomes storage, even temporarily, the room starts feeling blocked. A basket in the corner becomes two bags near the wall, then a stack of things waiting to be put away, and suddenly the room is not just smaller, it feels harder to move through. This is a cognitive load issue. When your eyes constantly register obstacles, your nervous system interprets the environment as unfinished. That low-level tension adds up. So the rule is simple. Treat visible floor space as active breathing room, not backup storage. Even reclaiming one narrow walkway can change the way a room feels. The second trick is vertical zoning. In small homes, the mistake is often horizontal spreading. Things drift across counters, tables, and low surfaces because those are easy to use, but easy in the moment becomes expensive visually. Japanese-inspired small space design often works better because it thinks in layers, high, middle, low. Hooks, narrow shelves, hanging rails, wall pockets. Not to store more, but to stop objects from expanding sideways. This reduces visual sprawl, and sprawl is what makes a room feel full before it actually is. The third trick is to keep one surface intentionally empty in every room. This sounds almost wasteful. That is why it works. An empty surface is not unused space. It is psychological recovery space. When every shelf and table is occupied, the brain never gets closure. It keeps scanning. Is that where this goes? Should I move that? Did I forget something? One clear table edge, one clear corner of a counter, one clear shelf creates a stopping point for attention. The fourth trick is to organize by action, not by category. This one changes everything. Most people group objects by what they are. Cords with cords, papers with papers, tools with tools. But daily life happens through actions, not categories. Tea making, leaving the house, cleaning the sink, sitting down to work. When objects needed for one action live together, the home becomes easier to use. That matters because discipline at home is rarely about effort. It is about how many steps the environment demands before a useful action can begin. The fifth trick is to create a transition zone at the entrance. Small homes feel bigger when movement feels clean, and the entrance is where disorder usually begins. Shoes, bags, keys, jackets, receipts, packages. None of these items seem large on their own, but they create what behavioral psychology would call habit leakage. One unfinished transition invites another. The bag stays there, then mail lands beside it, then something else joins the pile. A tiny entry system interrupts that chain reaction. A hook, a tray, a narrow basket. Nothing elaborate. This is a cue-based system. When the first action after entering the home has a clear place, the rest of the evening begins with less friction. The room stays lighter because clutter is stopped at the border, not chased after later. The sixth trick is counterintuitive use less of your storage. People assume that if a cabinet can hold more, it should hold more. But a full cabinet behaves like a crowded room. It increases search time, creates visual density, and raises the effort required to put things back. In practice, overfilled storage teaches the brain a dangerous lesson. Returning this item is annoying, so I will leave it out. That is how visible clutter begins. A better rule is to leave breathing room, not empty for decoration, empty for function. When drawers are only 80% full, objects move easily. When shelves have a little space around them, the eye relaxes. When containers are not packed to capacity, maintenance becomes automatic instead of effortful. The seventh trick is to hide repetition. This does not mean hiding everything. It means reducing duplicate visual signals. 5 similar bottles, 6 extra towels, stacks of backup toiletries, multiple open packs of the same product. The brain reads each visible item as separate information even when the category is the same. That increases cognitive noise. In many small Japanese homes, the space feels calm, not because there is less life in it, but because repetition is compressed. Backups are grouped extras, are rotated out of sight, daily use versions stay accessible, and reserve stock disappears into one defined place. The eighth trick is the nightly reset, but smaller than you think. People often fail at reset routines because they imagine a full cleaning ritual at the end of the day right when energy is already low. That is not a discipline problem. It is bad timing. A better system is a 2-phase reset. 1 minute before dinner, 3 minutes before bed. The first removes drift. The second restores starting conditions for tomorrow. This is where Kaizen becomes practical. Tiny reset, repeated daily, low resistance, high cumulative effect. Homes stay organized not because someone feels inspired every night, but because the reset is so small that skipping it feels stranger than doing it. The ninth trick is to place frequently used items at the point of use, not the point of storage. This sounds obvious, yet many homes are arranged around where things fit, not where they are needed. Cleaning wipes under a distant sink, chargers in a drawer across the room, teacups far from the kettle, laundry items split between different spaces. Every extra step creates friction, and friction quietly destroys consistency. The brain loves convenience. It repeats what starts easily. So if you want a home to stay orderly, place the tool where the action happens. Organization should support behavior, not just appearance. The 10th trick is to design for flexibility instead of permanent setup. Small homes struggle when every object claims a fixed identity and a fixed space. A table becomes only a dining table. A corner becomes only storage. A chair becomes the place to drape clothes. But in compact living, the room has to change roles without creating chaos. That means using fewer but more adaptable systems: a tray that turns a table into a workspace, and back again, a basket that gathers one category temporarily, a folding item that disappears when its task is done. This matters psychologically because a flexible room restores a sense of agency. It tells your brain this space is still available. It can become what you need next. That is one of the hidden reasons some small homes feel expansive. Not because they contain less life, but because they do not trap life in one rigid layout. And beneath all 10 tricks, there is one deeper pattern. A home feels bigger when it asks less from your mind. That is the part people miss. Organization is not only physical, it is neurological. Every pile is an open loop. Every overstuffed drawer is a decision delay. Every object without a landing place becomes a tiny source of stress. The goal is not aesthetic control. The goal is reducing the amount of unnecessary negotiation between you and your environment. That is why the smartest systems often look almost lazy. They remove steps, they shorten reach, they lower activation energy. They make the good action easier than the messy one. This is also why discipline at home should not depend on motivation. Motivation is unstable. Energy changes. Attention changes. Some evenings are clear, some are not. A useful home accounts for that. It does not expect your best self every day. It supports your tired self too. So, if you want to make a small home feel bigger, do not begin by asking, "What else can I add?" Ask a quieter question. What is this room forcing me to notice, decide, and manage that I no longer need? Maybe you reclaim the floor near the bed. Maybe you clear one kitchen surface completely. Maybe you move everyday items to where they are actually used. Maybe you stop filling every shelf just because you can. Small shifts, not dramatic ones. That is the Kaizen mindset at home. A slight improvement that reduces friction today can become a stable rhythm tomorrow. And once a room becomes easier to reset, easier to move through, easier to understand at a glance, it starts feeling larger than its measurements suggest. Not because the walls moved, because the pressure did. What lasts is rarely the most intense method. It is usually the simplest one you can repeat without resistance. A clear path, a calm surface, a drawer with breathing room, a place for the bag before clutter spreads. These are not impressive habits from the outside, but they change the emotional texture of daily life. And that is often what real organization does. It does not just create order, it gives your attention somewhere softer to land.